welcome back to our Ambiance Realty podcast. Today I have a very, very special guest. Her name is Monserrat. She's one of our top producing agents and co-owner of Ambiance. Thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you, Syl, for having me. I'm super excited.
I know. So what are we going to talk about today? Let's tell our friends.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about how you could sell your house for top dollar. And we're going to give you all the tricks and all the secrets that you need to know.
That's right. How important, Monse, because I see so many agents that, quite frankly, I'm like, how did you get licensed? It's crazy, you know? And they're not very knowledgeable, and obviously we're all new at some point,
right?
But either you take your career and your job very seriously and you do treat it as a profession, which we are professionals in our industry, but how important is it to interview and hire the correct listing agent for your property?
Especially, I think for a listing agent is super important, most importantly, because they're the ones that are going to be guiding you, right? And most importantly, telling you how to price your house, when you're getting offers, which offer to accept, when is it a good time to sell, or basically timing. Timing is everything too when selling your property. You don't want to sell your property like in the winter time, right? Like right now, it's a really good time to sell.
Right. Spring.
Yeah, spring through summer is really good. I think because a lot of kids are changing schools, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of parents want to move into certain neighborhoods. So sometimes they're willing to overbid for just a property just because they want to get their kids in a certain school district. That's
right. And actually, it's funny because every property is different. So you really have to set up the appointment so that we can make sure that, when we sell your home, that you are able to qualify for another home.
Correct.
We actually had to let go of an agent here in the company because obviously we pride ourselves in, not only providing service for a lifetime to our clients, but, making sure that we give you amazing above and beyond customer service, because ultimately, it's a relationship where we're both winning. We're going to be in business for a long time, not just one transaction or transactional. It's a relationship, it's a bond for a lifetime, because we're going to guide you as far as, our expertise in your market, and it all starts with pricing the property properly, but, making sure that when you sell this home, whether you're upgrading, downgrading, investing, like what's the plan that you are able to qualify and secure another mortgage for a home.
Yeah, that's very important, because some listing agents, what I've noticed, sometimes they'll help a client and put the property on the market, not only realizing, not even taking the time, quite frankly, to see if the client even qualifies, right, for their next home. And unfortunately, when you sell a house, right, and if they didn't put something called it's a contingent sale. Unfortunately, when you sell your house, you have to sell your house, right? So if we know you're buying a second property, we want to make sure you're protected. So we always put a contingency called, the seller replacement home contingency. Yeah. So we help you with all of that to make sure when you do decide to sell, you actually secured a home and you actually qualify for that home. That's what we do at Ambiance Realty.
Right. And basically, to touch a little bit more on what this contingency actually is, it's basically just saying, hey, the sale of my home is contingent upon me finding a replacement home, right? What does this exactly entail and what does it mean? Because here in California, you go into a binding contract as a seller with a buyer, right? So they have to perform and you have to perform. So, I've seen the cases where it's not even disclosed on the MLS that this is a contingent home.
That's scary.
It is scary. It is crazy. And will never understand it, because common sense says, if you're buying another home, I got to get you pre-qualified and make sure that you are going to be able to buy that replacement home. And a lot of people, they want to upgrade, they want to downgrade, they want to cash out, refinance to buy investment properties, and you really just have to start somewhere. But this contingency basically lets you cancel the sale legally because you couldn't
find a replacement home.
Exactly. And, the only issue I see with this is being able to close concurrently. Monse, in my experience, again, because I have always worked with an amazing lender, and the lender is very, very important in a transaction, because if you're not properly qualified, you're going to have a lot of speed bumps in the transaction, right? Real estate and mortgage is already like a crazy world. So imagine if you get a bad lender and you're not qualified properly, you know, and something happens, you know, God forbid,
That's horrible.
you lose your job or something. You have to sell this home if that contingency is not in place. So, you know, for us, it's just easy to, you know, put it there. We have all the systems in place so that, you know, you're protected. And then we have great agents like Monse who are going to be like, okay, you have to do all of this to the property so that we can get top dollar. And it looks different for every single client. So, you know, you have to come in, you have to get an actual assessment, and we'll go over a game plan with you depending on exactly what your needs are. But what does the process look like, Monse, getting a property ready for the market, to hit the market?
Yeah. So how Syl mentioned, each seller is different. But for example, if we set up an appointment with you and, for example, you want to get the most for your property, we like to tell sellers, like, for example, if they need to brighten up the place, maybe with a fresh paint, white, you know, it makes the property look, you know, more inviting and more light. Also,
bigger.
Yeah, bigger. And not only that, sometimes flooring, maybe just changing flooring, updating some countertops. But each property is different. So when I'm selling a house, I like to take a personalized approach because, like I mentioned, each seller is different. So I want to make sure they're getting top dollar. But some properties, to be quite honest, some properties, there's no point of even just updating them just because there's so much amount of work that sometimes it's better to sell the property as is. And we have a good network. So we have investors that sometimes are willing to buy properties all cash as is, especially if you have a short time frame. And if you have enough time also too, we could prepare the house to get the most.
Right. And I've actually had clients, I'll give you guys an example. In Long Beach, he's still my client. He just called me a couple weeks ago. So he basically sold his house in Long Beach and there was like purple bedrooms. You know, he had a lot of kids. It was, you know, not everybody likes purple. And, you know, to buy a home and to get, you know, more buyers and more attention to the actual property, a customer, a client, a buyer, they have to be able to picture themselves in the actual home. This is why we recommend, you know, that you take pictures down, you know, clutter out, and in some cases we'll go as crazy as saying, hey, you're going to net 100K more if we do X, Y, and Z. Not every client has the budget for that. In my specific case, the client did. So, you know, we walked the property. It took him a month because he actually has family members who are contractors and handymen.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we changed the color of the floor. So he polished it. It was real wood. Changed the color, made the whole interior, you know, an off-white beige color. So that amplified the space and made it look bigger, and it was way more appealing. We did paint the fence. There's a couple things that we did. And then he bought a property, sold that one, bought a bigger property because in Long Beach, the lots are very small. So he needed like a big lot. So we found something really nice by USC, and he converted his garage to an ADU, and he basically lives for free because he's a trucker.
Wow.
And he parks his truck in his long, beautiful driveway, so doesn't have to pay that money anymore to the lot where he used to park. And I don't remember if he rents the rooms or how he lives for free, but lives for free. It's crazy. And he makes like $800 extra a month.
Crazy.
Yeah. So again, the options are there. It's just sitting with, you know, agents that are experienced, you know, they will give you the best game plan, you know, because I know a lot of agents don't, especially part-time. I'm like, never, no, you know, hire a full-time professional that, you know, takes pride in what they do. And you said, look at their reviews, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
How important is that?
Yeah. You want to make sure that the agent you hire has online presence, meaning if you go on Google, how many reviews do they have? What are other people saying, right? Most of my business, I actually a lot of people find me off Google. So you want to make sure they have Google reviews that have worked with sellers in the past. And numbers now are very, like, honestly, you could Google your agent. How many houses have they sold? What areas are they selling in? So yeah, I mean, I think that's very important. And most importantly, too, if they actually have a database of buyers, how long have they been operating as an agent? Do they have a big database? Because most agents will say, hey, I have a buyer for your house. Oh, I have buyers, but they really don't, right?
Right.
So it's very important to have a lot of buyers, too.
Like a pool of investors.
pool of investors or just like, first time home buyers. And that's very important.
Right. And again, every property is different, but staging is also very popular. It's going to depend on obviously the purchase price and then your budget, because not every client has the same means to, whether it's, doing repairs before listing the property or saying I have this much budget for staging, because staging can get crazy expensive. And if your agent doesn't deliver and it's on the market forever, the property goes stale, you're stuck with staging, and then you have to take it out in the middle because, there's no money for it.
It could cost from $5,000 to $40,000.
Imagine.
I had a listing in Hancock Park and the property was in sale for $4.3 million, and the staging, the girl told me was about to be $34,000
total
base for 1 month based on the square footage. So has agents too, of course. Everyone, I have different packages for each seller, right? That could make you net the most. But staging it could be pretty expensive. So you want to invest in staging on properties that, that do require that, especially if the property has a big square feet home, those luxury houses.
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually important, and they will sell for more. And it's like people can see themselves in the property. And when you picture yourself in the property, you create that emotional attachment where it's like, okay, I just want to get in my house. We close fast. We get you an escrow. And the faster you close, the less money you spend. So, there's also virtual staging.
Yeah.
You've done it?
Yeah, I've done virtual staging too as well. So if a client, what I do too, I'll offer virtual staging and showing the prospective buyer, hey, if you add these items, this is how your property would look. And as empty too, so they could see both sides to it as well.
Right.
Yeah. And for people too, people that are watching too, I'm sure some of them have investment properties and they have tenants, right? So I actually currently have a listing right now in LA. So it's tenant occupied. So sometimes, it's hard to get into properties when the property is tenant occupied, right? So other ways that I get creative too in my listings, I could still sell your property. Even if you have tenants, we could assist you with selling it with tenants in place, or, if the buyer wants to negotiate something cash for keys, right? Live in one, rent the other one. We could assist you with that as well. I know sometimes being a landlord could be a lot. So we take pride. Yeah. We take pride in helping you even in those situations, even if they're tenant occupied.
Right.
And only show it to serious buyers. What I like to do, I don't know if you do this, before I show the units, to make sure we're not disturbing the tenants.
Subject to?
Yeah, subject to interior inspection. And at least to make sure, the offer is something that the owner would consider. Right. Then we would show it. At least with, 20 to 48 hour notice to the tenant.
Right. That's normally how that goes.
Yeah.
And especially when you're dealing with like more than 4 units, like let's say 16 units. So it's a 24 to 48 hour notice to the tenant of entry, and you basically post it on all of them. And all the offers are going to be subject to interior inspection. And then the people that are serious, you set up one day, everybody comes, we open up all the units, and basically, with tenants, if they don't allow you access, you legally can go in with a locksmith because they were provided the notice. And this is how you kind of handle like 16 units, whatever, like bigger properties, because we don't want to make the tenants uncomfortable or bother them too much unless it's a serious offer. So again, the experience and the knowledge of your client is of your agent is so important to successfully close the transaction in, a good way, because I've seen the craziest things happen. This agent that we had to let him go, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's like forcing a seller to sell without even knowing that they qualify, nonetheless, when they have nowhere to go and it's like a developer and they have to knock the property down. Insane, and I'm like, it was just handled incorrectly because again, you don't want to work with an agent that only cares about their commission, but that they care about you and your best interest.
Well, yeah, not only that too, I've seen a lot too that agents sometimes will list properties and are not really familiar with 1031 exchange, which blows my mind.
It's crazy.
Especially if you're working with clients that invest a lot, like 1031 exchange, if you don't know how it works, like
How can you guide a client?
Yeah. Like, especially when you're selling property, there's a lot of things that go to it. If you have to pay withholding tax, capital gain tax, right? And if your agent is not properly educating you, it could cost you a lot of money, right?
A lot.
So what I like to do, I like to educate my clients. Hey, do you have a CPA or trusted advisor could tell you, is it a good time to sell right now? Sometimes it's not a good time to sell, and there's things that they have to do, and I'm okay with waiting, to make sure they don't have a big IRS bill at the end, right? Because I want to keep working with you.
Right. 100%. And the funniest thing I've ever heard. So I had a client fighting me because they're like, oh no, this other agent told me that I'm going to sell my house and the money's going to come to my bank account. I'm like, no. That completely defeats the purpose of a 1031 exchange. And a 1031 exchange, it's basically selling a property and rolling the money into another bigger property. And you have 30, 60, 90 days to identify a property. And the net proceeds of that sale need to be in escrow. And from escrow, they go to the 1031 company that you decide to work with, because there's tons of them, and then they handle the monies, not you. Because at that point it's over. Like, the money hit your account and you're not doing a 1031 exchange anymore, So again, it could be very, very expensive if you hire the wrong person. But again, it could be a great experience if you hire the right agent that's going to help you multiply and guide you, because, for example, like, let's just use this as an example. If you qualify for $1 million, but you want to qualify for 1.5, like, start wherever you are, because ultimately you always have options when you purchase a property, because you're building equity from day one, and it's like, then you have something to play with, because California, you build equity so quickly. It's amazing. It's crazy. My first property, it was 4 units. I sold it, I think, after three years ish. $300K plus. That's crazy. Yeah. See, but timing is everything, like you said.
Timing is everything, and when to sell. And also too, if you have a mansion too, there's something called mansion taxes that just passed too, that you pay 6.6% additional too. So if your agent doesn't know all of that, right? Yeah. If they don't have experience with the high luxury market, that could be a hefty bill for you too. So you want to make sure that the agent you're hiring is experienced and knows all these things. It's, even though we don't do taxes as agents, right? But we could send you to a trusted advisor. So you could avoid all of this. But if you're selling your property, let's say, for example, you have a property right now, you just bought it a year ago. If you're going to move from that property, just know you're going to get hit with withholding taxes, right? So that's just going to eat most of your proceeds. A good agent would tell you, hey, stay at least in your property for at least 2 years. Then we revisit this, right? And we sell your property so you don't get hit with withholding taxes. But of course, sometimes there's scenarios where the person has to sell, right?
Right.
Because
then you don't have a choice.
Yeah, you have no choice.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that goes into selling a house too. Also too, when you're selling a house, you want to make sure you disclose any material facts against the property. Because if your agent did not guide you to do this properly, it could come back to you and then you could unfortunately get sued. Right. So a material fact could be, for example, if someone died on the property, if there's any damage, right? Plumbing, mold, or even like noise level. 100%. What else would you consider a material fact? So
basically a lot of things, right? It's like, in real estate, what's the most important part? It's location. The three most important things in real estate is the same thing, which is location. That is the single best and most important thing in a transaction. So, I've actually had issues, like if it's in like the zoning is like business zoning, but like, so even birds, like, how there's places that are infested by pigeons and stuff because of the feces. Yeah, you have to disclose all of that. There's so many tests. Like, if you're gonna build, you have to do like soil testing. It's crazy, there's so much. I've had clients like, oh no, I'm like, oh, is there a leak? They're like, oh, no, we'll paint it. I'm like, no, you have to disclose everything. Right. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, it can come back to me, the company, you, all of us, and it's not really worth it. Yeah. Because disclosures are part of your inspections. It's important to know if someone passed. So I actually, in my early on career, because I've been doing real estate like forever. It's crazy. It's like all I know. So there was a property. I remember I hosted an open house and nobody knew, but later on we found out that, so there was a little girl that passed. So she was murdered, like she was, what is it? A drive-by? Is that what they're called?
Drive-by.
So, but like they didn't disclose it. So guess who disclosed it? The freaking neighbors know everything. So then guess what? It turned into this huge lawsuit because the new owner, like, obviously you're the new owner, so everybody's talking to you, and the neighbors are like, yeah, and it wasn't disclosed, and it was within the 3-year. Crazy. Yeah. So the investor bought it, flipped the house, and didn't disclose that.
Did he not know?
He did know.
Oh, yeah. See, sometimes investors buy properties in bulk, so they don't know.
He knew.
Yeah, but and they knew that something
turned into a huge lawsuit. And obviously, the neighbors know everything. You cannot hide anything. This is why I tell my clients, drive by on the weekend. Make sure it's a place, especially when it's not the greatest area. I would always tell my clients, I want to make sure you're happy in your home, because the reality is you can move in and decide that whatever, too many parties on the weekend, you don't like the area, whatnot.
Right.
And then it's like, I still have to help you and deal with the issue. So we might as well kill it early on if you don't like the area. And there's agents that try to force their clients to go through with the purchase of a home that, is not what they want.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So we want to make sure that when you're selling your house, you're filling out those seller disclosures, but we'll guide you.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of information, but of course, we'll guide you step by step. But if you're wondering what your house is worth, send us a DM. We could give you a free estimate what your house is worth and how much you could possibly net. If it even makes financially sense for you to sell right now. Or, just keep it and then grab equity from there, invest in other properties. Right.
We can help you with so many different things. We have loans for everything. Maybe it's just a HELOC. Maybe you could afford both payments. You leave this one to rent it out, and it pays itself. And then you can purchase another one. Again, investment, owner occupied or not, At the end of the day, it's just looking at all the numbers, making sure everything makes sense. And the seller net sheet, we'll provide that up front so that you know exactly what you're paying for, because you have to pay off your mortgage, whatever's remaining. And then are you going to pay closing costs? Is there going to be termite? The one thing I always make my sellers pay, I'm like, trust me, it's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for everybody. It's a home warranty. So you just want to give that to the customer, to the buyer. The first year, normally whatever's going to break is going to break, and we always make sure we get our clients the best home warranties so that if something were to go wrong within the first year of them owning the property, which normally that's when all that stuff happens, the plumbing, the roof, something will break, and, you call the home warranty. A lot of people don't know that you have to call them first. So your home warranty gets voided if you get a contractor out and they actually touch the problem before you call them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm shocked. My clients, I would give them a little folder or email them the home warranty. If anything happens, call me. Don't do anything without calling me, and that's really how we built the business and the company, is by really caring for our clients and, being very on top of their transaction, making sure that they're always good. Even like removing PMI later down the line, and I know a lot of people, agents, lenders, they don't really stay on top of the client and keep that connection, during birthdays, etc. But PMI, mortgage insurance, that only protects the lender if you stop paying. It doesn't protect the buyer, right? And this insurance is in place because when you put 3.5 down, which is almost nothing, it's a high risk loan. So that it has to have mortgage insurance. It's called PMI. It's about 4 to 5. It depends on the purchase price. It's a percentage. And we can remove that down the line once you have 20% equity. So that's amazing, because that alone is going to save you so much money. Right. But it's like a lot of people, they just think that they're stuck with this loan forever. And I'm like, no. Another thing, literally yesterday. So I had one of my clients come here and I sold them a house. That was the last property I personally showed before the company started growing so much, when I was pregnant with Italia.
Oh, okay.
I was like 5-6 months pregnant.
Oh, wow.
And we took the picture. Their offer got accepted, Huntington Park. So the daughter is now a cop.
Oh, nice.
So she came to get qualified because she wants to buy a home. And they're like, we would never go with anybody. Like, I love you. Thank you for everything you did for my mom and I. So this lady, out of all my clients, I have hundreds and hundreds of clients. thousands. She's the only one out of all of them. There's 2 people that have paid extra to their mortgage. So if you pay one extra mortgage payment a year, so if your mortgage payment, let's say it's $5,000 a month, throughout the spread of the 12 months, if you pay like $2,000, $1,300, whatever, it has to total up to $5,000 at the end of the month to your principal. You're literally reducing the life of the loan by 5 to 6 years. And you're also saving like 200, 300 grand in interest.
Crazy.
It's
just like
crazy
information. If you have the correct agent, they're going to give you the correct information. Like when selling your house, right? They're going to tell you, hey, you should sell now or you shouldn't, right?
Right.
What should we do? How can you get more offers? Or should you accept this offer, right? Especially when you have multiple offers, you want to make sure that you are cross-qualifying those offers. We work with the mortgage guys and we have trusted lenders that could tell us, hey, this client does actually qualify in order to purchase your house. So I know once we get an escrow, we're going to close it, right? And making sure you're going to get your proceeds.
Right. 100%. And ultimately, again, guys, it's just, what do you want? How do we serve you? You know, how do we help you reach your dreams? How do you get to a place where, I say this all the time and, you know, I don't know, but I don't want to get shadow banned, but like, you can't rely on the government. You can't rely on Social Security. It might not exist by the time you retire. And the reality is what better way to create passive income while you sleep than real estate investing?
Right.
The more doors that you own, like, just think about that alone. Like, it's like you own these properties, guys. They're going to one day be paid off. But if you never get qualified, you never try, you never meet up with us, how can you acquire real estate? I mean, I just don't get it. You have to have a game plan.
Right.
You have to get qualified. We commit and then we just go for it, because a lot of people freeze. They freeze and then they don't do anything. And then the year goes by. Just like our January goals.
We're already in what? April. April. Yeah.
It's crazy. So, is it April?
No, March. But it's the first day of spring. So
yeah. And Easter's like
around
this month. It's so weird.
Yeah. And then we're going to be in summer and see, maybe you're that person that wanted to sell your house. Like, oh, I want to move to another state, or maybe I want to invest. And then the year is going to go past. Right. So start now. And let's say, for example, even if you're not ready to sell now, but contact us now, send us your address and we'll give you a free estimate what your house could be worth now and how much you can net. And then you'll see if it's financially makes sense for you.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, we also speak Spanish too as well. So
hablamos español.
Para que le den un estimado gratis para ver si conviene. Y si puede calificar para su próxima casa, ¿verdad? Asegurarlos que sí puede agarrar su próxima casa después que venda.
Y tenemos, now we're speaking in Spanish. We have so many programs, so it doesn't matter if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, self-employed, W-2. It doesn't matter if you have a little bit of down payment, a lot of down payment. Like, we literally have a loan for you. If you're I-10, if you're whatever you are, I promise you that we have a loan for you. Is that right? We have about 36 different lenders that we're approved with. So we're always going to shop for the best deal for you. We're going to make sure that you're taken care of. And not only that you do get really started. Everybody wants to buy real estate and very few people actually do it.
And think about it.
They think about it too much. And no property is perfect unless you build it yourself. And even then, you're going to miss something. So the reality is do you want to start now, or do you just want to keep waiting and waiting and waiting and not doing anything? Like, I tell people this story all the time. I just said, hey, qualify me. He was my boyfriend. Now he's my husband. But 2 weeks later, I was in escrow. 2 weeks later, like, I just commit and then I figure it out later. I'm like, let's go.
That's why you're so successful.
Yeah. But what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah.
That I fall on my ass, that what? Like, what's going to happen? If you can get the loan, buy the property. It's that simple. Palmdale. I mean, if I can go back in time, I would have bought so many freaking properties in Palmdale. I remember
when I started, the houses were $250.
Girl, when I started, they were like 62 grand.
No.
65 grand. Like, imagine if you bought like a shitload.
Wow. No, and my client bought that property for $250 and then we sold it for $410.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then they moved on. Well, they had to move out of state, but most of my clients, I've sold them property and they sell them and they make so much equity, like 200 grand, and they buy a bigger house. And see, they buy the first house maybe with FHA 3.5% because they don't have a lot. And they're like, hey, they stay in the I tell them, stay in the property at least for 2 years, get enough equity so we could avoid that withholding tax. And then they end up buying their next house with maybe 5% or 20% down, right? Yeah. Because they have so much money. You don't have to put all that money, right? But the clients sometimes want to just because they want a lower payment or qualify for more.
Right. So again, guys, get qualified. Let us guide you. Let us help you. You know, sometimes going on the outskirts, I know a lot of people are like, no, I want in LA. I'm like, yeah, but these are growing cities.
Right.
Palmdale, Lancaster, you know, everywhere. People go out of LA because it's so expensive. But, you know, you're going to build equity so much faster, you know, and just get it done, get qualified, reach out to us. You know, we're happy to help and give you our professional opinion. And unless you have anything else to say, this is where you can follow us. Yeah. We can't wait to get in touch with you.
Yeah. And if you want a free estimate, like how we said, contact us. We'll let you know what your house is worth or what you qualify for.
Yes. Bye. See you next week.